In a state that has seen 3 actors become chief ministers, where cinema and politics are deeply intertwined, superstar Rajinikanth's political entry has come with the weight of expectations. Comparisons have been made with 3-time Chief Minister and AIDMK founder MGR, who translated his mass fan following into votes, eventually catapulting him to power in 1977. But are these comparisons fair?
MGR is a man who was both an actor and a politician. He had a public career in his mind and heart from the very beginning. And that gave him rich dividends. MGR had built a solid image for himself as a do-gooder. He never did any anti-hero role. Rajinikanth has done a plethora of roles, both good and bad, and anti-hero roles, if you may. He had smoked in films. In fact, he had made a name for how he handles and flips a cigarette. He had drinks in films, things that MGR never did. But the context has completely changed. You don't need an image anymore. So that is where Rajinikanth becomes important, because what Rajinikanth has is, he has what MGR had to some extent, which is charisma. But to go back to your fundamental question, whether the comparisons are valid, they're valid because there is so much promise in Rajinikanth.
MGR's political career spanned decades and included stints as MLC and MLA before he floated the AIDMK. Rajinikanth, however, is a political novice. Even the way MGR's fan clubs operated were different from Rajini's.
Because the fan clubs, they started as they formed the clubs because they became his fans, but then they were also part of his political ideology. They became part of the party, the DMK party. They were members of the DMK party, and they were also his fans. And then actually they started working for during the election campaigning and all that, booth managing and all that, from 1962 onwards. So they were well versed in it. All those fans were not just his idolizers, so to say. Rajinikanth became a phenomenon, but then he wasn't looked upon as a political leader from the start. But then MGR, MGR's cinema life and also politics went along with each other, kind of side by side. There was no dichotomy at all.
With just months to go for the assembly elections, Rajini's late entry has also been compared with Telugu star and former Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister N.T. Ramarao. N.T. Ramarao launched the Telugu Desam Party in 1982 on the back of the public humiliation of Andhra Chief Minister T. Anjaya by the then Congress leader Rajiv Gandhi. NTR's pitch of Telugu self-respect and pride won people's hearts, and within months, the TDP defeated the Congress in the 1983 assembly elections. So, is the political context comparable between NTR and Rajini?
I don't think it is comparable because we are at a different historical times. We are now in 2020 and he had launched in 1982. So the times are different. Number one. The only thing common is they are film actors. But NTR came to the scene because the Congress was ruling the state and the people were ruefully looking for an alternative. And he provided that alternative. Belonging to the film fraternity, he was able to galvanize the crowds. Rajinikanth seems such a reluctant politician, but I'm sure that he's not reluctant. But he's giving some of the times he says he won't become, and then yesterday we heard that he's going to join politics. So I can't make him out. He looks like a confused gentleman. And it is my estimate that more than he himself, the BJP is pushing him forward.
The rite of passage is not required anymore. You'll have to think about N.T. Ramarao. The man floated a party and in 9 months he was in power. There was no rite of passage for N.T. Ramarao. Nobody knows N.T. Ramarao as a man who had ever said anything about public service or the happenings in the country, etc. There was a moment when most Telugus felt that the Congress I leadership was not treating them properly. So he put forward the idea of self-respect, and that clicked.
And while Rajini hopes to capitalize on the political vacuum following the demise of AIDMK's J. Lalitha and DMK's Karunanidhi, banking on his star value alone is unlikely to thrust him to power. Actors like Shivaji Ganesan, Chiranjeevi and Vijaykanth bear testimony to this.
It's going to be an uphill battle. Rajinikanth lacks the kind of organization that any party should have. The DMK is a very organized party, so is the AIDMK. They're all very organized. They have a huge grassroots support, which is to be tested in the case of Rajinikanth.
These days, so many people are entering into politics, and a lot of people are not taking film stars so seriously. It's just that because you are a film star, you are popular doesn't mean that you will be a successful politician. You have to show your resoluteness, your resolve in the field of politics. And of course, it's if you are a film star, it gives you a head-on start because anyway people know you. But you have to prove your worth.
At the age of 70, Rajinikanth is gearing up for the role of his lifetime. But by arriving late to the political field, he has set himself an uphill battle to take on the Dravidian parties. After all, unlike in real life, the superstar will not be able to punch his way out of this pole battle.